Welcome to WebSeriesOnFire.com, where talented filmmakers share their inspiring stories from concept to execution. And now, here is your host, Peter Papagiorgio.
Welcome to WebSeriesOnFire.com. I'm your host, Peter Papagiorgio, and I'm going to be sharing the stories and journeys of the creators of the hottest new web series in the entertainment industry. My guest today, Ken Davenport. He's a producer, actually a Broadway producer, a writer, and a director, and he has created a web series called The Bunny Hole. Ken, are you ready to ignite the entertainment industry with your web series?
I certainly am. Thanks for having me on board.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing the interview. Ken, you want to give us a little quick glimpse of your personal life? Where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school?
Sure.
And your influences?
I'm from a very small town in Massachusetts called Sturbridge. I started out as an actor in the local community theater there. Got too cool for it when I was about 12 years old. Thought I was going to play for the Boston Red Sox and the Boston Celtics simultaneously. I was going to be that kid. And I actually went to a small private high school in central Massachusetts that churns out doctors and lawyers. Ended up going to Johns Hopkins University, where I ended up doing more theater than anything else my first year. So I decided to transfer to the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU, where I got my BFA as an actor, but then quickly transitioned to the other side of the business and ended up managing large-scale Broadway musicals. So everything from Thoroughly Modern Millie to Gypsy, etc. And then about 13 years ago now, I started out on my own and started producing off-Broadway shows and Broadway shows.
Cool. Now, I always ask people, when you decided to study theater and everything like that, how were your parents? Were they behind that? Did they say, oh, my God, what are you doing?
Well, they were the ones that dragged me to that audition when I was 5 years old, because I guess they thought it'd be cute to see their kid on stage. So it was really their fault. So I blamed them when we had our big talk. Little did they know that, having a cute kid on stage would turn out to a guy saying, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to be an actor. But no, I was lucky enough to actually, my father's a doctor, and they were unbelievably supportive. My mother a little nervous, and said, you could fall back on being a lawyer, etc. But both said, go for it. You can always choose to do something later if you want, but see what happens. And they trusted in me, and I think I've done them okay so far.
Yeah, you have. That's great, because one of the reasons why I asked that question is because my wife's an actress, and her dad was, back in New Jersey, her dad was a middle-class longshoreman, Italian, didn't get it. It's like, what are you talking about? Her mother, on the other hand, was a singer. She sang at the Copacabana. So her mother was the one who supported her creatively, but her dad just didn't get it, man,
Yeah, it's hard, and I certainly know a lot of people in all forms of the performing arts or the arts in general, including making movies or whatever it is, writing novels, painting pictures. It's hard. But look, if your kid is passionate enough, they will find a way to earn a living in the business.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I'm totally behind her. I was like, look, you do what you got to do, and don't worry about it. I'm totally behind her. Yeah. Do you want to tell the audience what your web series, The Bunny Hole, is about?
Yeah, The Bunny Hole was inspired by me being a super fan of Reno 911.
Me too.
And also a fan of the HBO series Cat House, which was one of the first actual reality shows about a brothel in Reno, Reno, Nevada, or up north in Nevada. And I just remember watching it, thinking I was fascinated by it. And then I thought, what if Reno 911 and Cat House got together and had a baby? Well, that would be The Bunny Hole, which is about a struggling brothel in a small town called Pahrump, Nevada, which is a real town, about 65 miles outside of Las Vegas, which is one of the few places that prostitution is legal in the country. So just like Reno 911 is a mockumentary, or a cops mockumentary, if you will, Bunny Hole is a cat house mockumentary.
I got you, yeah. Now, I noticed in regards to the casting for it, you use a lot of actors from California and from New York. Was that a consideration because of the location in Pahrump?
No, I really looked for a group of people that could do this kind of material. And look, most of it, 90% of it is not scripted. I mean, I've developed a number of my shows this way, off Broadway and even on Broadway. I have a show coming to Broadway called Getting the Band Back Together. And what I do is I literally I cast the shows, right, by type, by character. And I get people in a room and I say, okay, you are going to play this John. You're going to play the sheriff of Pahrump, Nevada. You're going to play one of the working girls. You're going to play the madam. Develop a character, where they're from, who their parents were, why they're working here, and then let's improv it all to life. So the Bunny Hole, I put some of the funniest people and most inventive people in a room for 3 months, one night a week, and we improvised these characters to life. And then what I did, frankly, is I went to Pahrump. I went actually to this town, and I rented a house there. We pimped out the house, literally, into making it look like a real live working brothel, but a struggling one. And then I brought the whole cast out there, and we just took over this house for about 2 weeks, and we shot 70, 80 hours of all sorts of crazy footage of them improvising these characters and what it would be like to live and work in this house. And that's how the show was born.
I like the way you spray painted the bunny hole on the in front of the house. Well, yeah.
We always say that, one of the opening episode has one of the characters talking about how they went to talk to some of the more upscale brothels in town, but no one would talk to them. So we ended up at the bunny hole.
Yeah. Now I like the music too. Were you part of that, writing the music for it?
I didn't write the music, but what I did was enlisted the help of one of my Broadway composers. Actually, that show I mentioned, Getting the Band Back Together, it's a guy named Mark Allen. He wrote the theme song for it and the lyrics to that theme song. And then the score itself is by another guy named Doug Katsaris, who's another Broadway guy and a big commercial guy, actually. The guy who wrote the underscoring, if you will, also wrote some jingles that you would know, like by Menon.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. So I'm obviously, my connections in the Broadway world helped me a lot in putting together the team for the Bunny Hole.
Now, in regards to budget, did you do a Kickstarter campaign? Was it self-financed?
What I did was actually go out to some of the investors I've used for my Broadway shows. And I said, listen, we're going to try something a little different here. We're going to raise some money. And we're going to put this thing together, and we're going to try to sell it. And if we do, you'll come up big time. So I decided not to do the Kickstarter route and literally go for a for-profit commercial raise.
Okay. Now, in regards to the web series, and since you've done a lot of Broadway shows, like specifically Kinky Boots, do you want to give the audience kind of a sense of creating a Broadway show versus a web series? I know it's a big difference, but you want to tell the audience that, or?
Well, it is a big difference, and it isn't. I have a blog. It's about started as about producing theater, but it's become about producing anything. It's called theproducersperspective.com. And I have a ton of readers that are from all disciplines, writers of plays. I have some small business owners. I have filmmakers. I have everything about it, because one of the things I preach is that really creating anything, it follows the same structure. You have an idea for something, whether that's a show or a film. In fact, this was the first web series I created. I had never done it before. I didn't know what to do, right? But also I knew that this isn't brain surgery. And if I can run a Broadway show, if I can run a small business, if I can figure this out. So it's just like anything else, like opening a restaurant or starting a paper supply company. You need a product, you need an idea, right? You need people to help put that idea together, the cast. So I accomplished things one step at a time. I had the idea. Reno 911 meets the cat house. I got 15 people. I got them in a room. We improvised. Okay, now what? Now we've got a show. I got a house. I hired a crew. We all went. It's just one step at a time. In the same way that when I come up for an idea for a musical, I find authors for the musical. We write the musical. We rehearse the thing. We put it up in front of people. We try to raise some money. It's one step at a time. And I actually find you can accomplish anything that way, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's the only way you can do it, really.
Yeah, in fact, I just published a book called How to Succeed in the Arts or in Anything, and it really, like, literally, step by step, spells out my plan of attack on any of the things that I've done throughout my career. And I've done some wild and different things, from this web series to Broadway shows to I created a board game called Be a Broadway Star. I do a lot of different things, and people ask me, how do you do such different things? And I actually say they're not all that different. It's just one foot in front of the other, one specific action task a day, and you'll get there eventually.
Now, were you like that as a child too, or?
I was always trying to put things together as a kid. I was actually an only child, and I think I was a little bit lonely, so it's no coincidence that I ended up in the theater or even developing something like a bunny hole. I just had ideas, and I tried to get people together to help me do them. I find it actually hard to accomplish things on your own, so I try to get with groups of people. The energy behind it can really help you achieve the things that you want to achieve.
Do you use the same people? And would you have like kind of like a core cast and crew that you like to work with? But you know they're reliable. You know they're going to be there for you. You're all on the same page.
Yeah, I do have a core group of people that I really trust creatively, and I think you'll find if you look throughout history at some of the great filmmakers or the great theater artists. Look, I'm a huge Christopher Guest fan, right? If you watch all his stuff, you'll see he uses a lot of the same core people. I do on mine as well, especially when they're more improv based. You'll see this in great playwrights and great directors. So yeah, I tend to use people that I can speak a shorthand with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and once they know what you want before you even say it.
That's right, and they can also challenge me. They can really push me and say sometimes, no, this isn't working. This isn't great. What about this? What about this? In fact, one of my favorite episodes of the Bunny Hole is this moment with the character of Stacey Ray teaching the director of maintenance a thing or two, and it was totally their idea. They said, just start shooting us, Ken. We're just going to do a thing, and I trusted them.
Yeah, and that was funny. Yeah, I love that scene. Yeah. Did you have any obstacles you had to overcome when you were shooting?
Yeah, of course, there are always obstacles, especially with something that's improvisationally based. I tend to be a big planner, and that's a hard thing to do with material like this. You do have to really trust. And I also shot a documentary years ago, and I remember having the same feeling. You go into these things, and even with scripted, it's my big advice to creators out there. You go into them thinking it's going to be a certain way, and you plan it all out, and then something happens, and you realize that it's a bit different. And for me, I went there with a map of how I was going to shoot the whole series. And when I got there and started to do some of it, the first scene went great. The second, I did some talking head stuff, was fantastic. And then the third scene didn't go well. And I was like, oh my gosh, my concept for how this week was going to go out and what I was going to shoot is not going to work. And I had to pivot right there and then and come up with something totally different. And we did, and I, without a doubt, know that what we came up with is 100 times better than the original plan I had laid out.
Yeah, it took a life of its own at that point.
That's right, and you have to let these things do that, especially when actors start to get involved, because they really come to life, and they bring these characters to life, and you have to let them live it. It's like watching, if you watch the first couple of years of Seinfeld, you could see this happen. The first, and it wasn't a hit.
It wasn't a hit till the third season.
And you can see them struggling to find their voice, and the characters struggling to find it. And there's a moment that I find in all television series, and I found it in my web series as well, where the actors start to drive the writing instead of the reverse.
Exactly, right.
And the Seinfeld example that I use is if you watch the first few episodes and even season, Kramer just doesn't come across well. He comes across as stupid. And then at some point, the writers started letting Michael Richards dictate that character. And he starts turning it around and it becomes something totally different. You have to trust.
Yeah, the same thing happened in the old TV series, The Odd Couple.
Exactly right. That's a great example.
Yeah, the first season, I remember, it was based on the Broadway play, which is fine, but like Felix was just so stiff. And then once they went to a live audience and they gave Tony Randall that permission to do what he wanted, then he became zany, and that's when the writing just took off, man.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a big shift that happens in all filmed material that goes on for several seasons or episodes, etc.
But the only problem with that is, I mean, nowadays, because of the landscape, it's like if this show's not a hit by the fifth, sixth episode, they're canceling it, so they never give it a chance.
Well, that's what's great about a web series, or that's what's great about any content that can live online, is that you can do it, and there is the chance that someone will stumble upon it, find it, it'll be there forever, and it can catch fire, as you say, much later in its life.
Yeah, exactly. Ken, do you want to tell the audience what kind of camera you guys use, the equipment?
That's a very good question, Peter.
Okay.
I can tell you that the answer is I really have no idea.
Oh, okay.
It's just another sign of like, look, you got to know what you know and know what you don't know. And I'm actually a guy that can figure out pretty much anything. And there was a moment where I was like, I'm going to research the camera. I'm going to figure out, maybe we'll buy it so I can like have an asset afterwards, or sell it or rent it. And then I was like, I don't know anything about this. You know what I'm going to do? I think smart people hire people that know more about something than they do.
Yeah,
so
that's what a true leader does, yeah.
Yeah, I hired a great team that not only knew, obviously, how to shoot great material from a technical perspective, but I really spent some time with my crew beforehand because I felt like they were going to be another character in this. And in fact, there was some footage of them in it. And I got to know them, and I wanted them to have the same comic sensibilities that I did, so they could know angles. So much of the humor would be about the POV. So I really spent some time interviewing them to make sure that they loved the material, that they would love working long, long days and long hours. And man, if I could show you some outtakes, all you hear is the crew laughing constantly.
Yeah, that's great. Do you want now? I know you shot 12 episodes. Is there like a next plan for a season 2?
Yeah, we're going to see what happens with this season. I've got a ton of more footage, and actually we have rough cuts of a season 2 sitting there. So I'm just waiting a little bit to see what happens with season 1, and then we'll look to release season 2. And if nothing else, we've got a whole ton of outtakes that we could release that could keep people laughing for sure.
Cool. Well, Ken, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
It's been my pleasure. For anyone that's interested, just go to bunnyholeshow.com. It's a link to the YouTube page. You can check out all the episodes.
Wow. I was going to ask you, do you want to give your contact information, but you just did. All right. Well, thank you, Ken, for being on webseriesonfire.com, and good luck with the project.
Thank you so much.
Well, that wraps up webseriesonfire.com. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please email me at webseriesonfire@gmail.com. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to webseriesonfire.com with your host, Peter Papagiorgio. We'll catch you next time.